started? All right, we're recording. So why don't you give people who are on the call, for the people on the recording watching the replay, kind of give them an idea of who you are, where you're located, what you do, and kind of how you got started.
Sure. So I'm Darren Shaw. I'm the founder of a company called Whitespark. I started the company in 2005. And at the time, it was just a freelance web development business. So made websites and did that by myself for a good few years. And then business got busier. And so I hired my first person in 2008. And then it kind of grew from there. I had a few developers working with me by 2010. And then I guess probably about 2007-ish, a lot of my little web design clients also want to know how to rank in Google, because I built their website and they're like, hey, how come I'm not showing up in Google? So that really kind of led me into the SEO. I was doing SEO much earlier for my sister and stuff, but I really got into the local side of SEO around then. And in 2010, we built our first tool, which is called the Local Citation Finder. So that's just a software that allows you to sort of find all of your own citations, find all your competitor citations, compare them, and then see, oh, these are the gaps, right?
Right.
So we launched that first as a free tool, and then the local search community was like, hey, awesome, look at this free tool. And we got a lot of publicity for it and got mentioned on big blogs. And I think Matt McGee was one of the first to write about us. And so that just sort of led to this new path of being a company that focuses on local search software and local search services. And so that's all we do now. And so now there's
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say now there's like 14 people in the company, and we work with enterprises, agencies, small businesses. We have a citation building service and full local search service, and good local rank tracker, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and for the record, for everyone watching, the Local Citation Finder and rank tracker do work very well.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think there's a little bit of echo coming on. I'm not sure if the people on the stream can hear it, but whenever, okay, it seems to be gone now. Okay, so for a second there, I was hearing it, I guess, from your mic. So
I can fix that with headphones.
Okay, that might work. I don't know. I don't know if they can hear it or not, but
we'll do it.
Awesome. Do it for the Blab.
1 second.
Sure. What's up, Ask WT Support? How you doing?
There we go.
Okay, so like you mentioned a little bit about your kind of entrance into the local SEO world was kind of an accident in a way. I guess because you said you got picked up by blogs. From what I understand, it was kind of random that you were just kind of doing your thing and someone wrote about you and then other people heard about you and wrote about you. Is that about right?
I certainly didn't promote it. Yeah. So I built the tool and then I just sort of mentioned it to a few people in the community and then it kind of took off from there. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for that. If you build something that doesn't exist, it's very useful, then it can really change your career. It's kind of what happened to us because now we don't do websites anymore.
Right. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, you do.
I took that from you.
Right.
Okay, so now that we kind of have a feel for where you're coming from, what you do and everything, let's get into kind of the meat of it. So when you meet, a new SEO consultant, a marketing director, a small business owner, whoever it might be, who's looking to get started with local SEO, what do you feel that they can do to determine, what to focus on first and figure out? Because there's so many different options and tactics and strategies in local SEO. It can be really intimidating for someone who's not super familiar with it.
Right.
So how do they take that first step and determine what tactics and strategies they should implement first for their unique situation?
So, that's an interesting question because it comes up all the time as leads come in for our Local Spark service. I always do like a little mini audit. So it's really based on what has been done so far. So what are the important, high benefit things that they could focus on? And so I take a look at their links, their website, their citations, their reviews. Those things are enough for you to sort of assess where the quickest wins are. And so sometimes you see a small business website that has hardly any content, no content on the homepage, no title tags, and it's like, okay, let's focus on that. We have to hit those high value items quickly and easily. Those are really easy things to fix, right? So the harder thing, and the thing that actually really is the killer for most local businesses, that they have no links. So local businesses don't typically get very many inbound links. And so that's one of the highest payoff things you can do, is focus on those links. You know, citations are easy. You can just order those. There's a number of different citation building services that'll do them for you. If you've moved a lot, then you probably want to invest in a citation audit and cleanup. How do you assess that? You have to just do a mini audit. So you have to just kind of look at those 5 pieces. You can do it pretty quickly. You can just run a search in the LCF, a quick scan of the website with a checklist by your side, check out their reviews. That's easy. Just Google their name and look at what comes up. And yeah, it's pretty easy. Like for me, before I get on a sales call with a local Spark lead, it's just 10 minutes. I just look at those things in 10 minutes, just a quick overview of them. And then I can determine what the most important thing is. A lot of clients come to us. They've been doing SEO for 10 years. Their website is immaculate. It looks great. You know, their citations are all in order. Their links are actually looking pretty good. So at that point, then you kind of take a closer look at the competition. So what is it that's holding them back? And then often it's the links, or just really weak content, or super spammy content. They're getting sort of dampened by the Panda algorithm. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned content quite a bit there. I noticed that particularly on a local level with smaller to medium-sized businesses, a lot of those businesses don't really see the need for content or marketing that content effectively. Yeah. And there's kind of been a debate floating around about, you know, content marketing versus SEO, which is more important. Are they essentially the same thing now? Mm-hmm. What role do you feel like creating content and creating valuable content and then pushing that out there? What value do you feel like that has for a local business?
It's huge, because it's a real difference maker. So like you said, a lot of small businesses aren't doing it, right? So if let's say you're an electrician in, you know, small town USA, you can absolutely dominate with almost just doing that. If you write really good content, I think there's also a big problem, because let's say you are an electrician, you may not be a great writer because you haven't been studying writing, you've been apprenticing to become an electrician, so it's not your thing.
You're an electrician, not a writer.
That's right. So what we always do is we get them into our writing stream, and so we figure out what are the service pages. We make sure we build out a really good service page for each service that they offer. And the difference maker is most service pages are paragraph of text and 5 bullet points. And so what we do is we really try to build it out to like a good 10 paragraphs, a nice Q&A section where we kind of go into all the questions that people will have about stuff. And so we try to build up this really valuable piece of content. And it's magic, because Google catches on to that, especially at the local level. Google sees that, oh, well, think about how Google works. It's like, I want to return the most valuable page to the user for this search term. So they're searching for, junction box repair in some small town. And so what are all the pages that match that? And then which one has the best content? So it's a really simple thing that you can do to improve your relevancy. And the only place that falls apart is when you don't have the popularity to back it up. So you don't have enough links. No one really cares about that content. So then you have to get some local links, and just a handful of local links is often enough. Sometimes just the links you get from like a citation building campaign will also be enough. So
yeah, and the local citations also seem to really help solidify not just your keywords, but keywords related to your specific location, because it makes that connection so effectively.
Yeah, it's your local prominence. So it really says, shows Google, oh, this is a business, and I've got 100 sources out there backing up the existence of this business. Right.
So regarding the content side of things, if a new SEO consultant, or specifically someone who's doing local, or a local business owner is wanting to do it themselves, and they're wanting to better understand, they are an electrician, they're not a writer, how do they get started with that and writing content that is going to actually matter for SEO and is going to get the search engine and users' attention?
Yeah, I would start by making a list of all the services that you do. So what are all the different things you do? Write them all out in a list. And then there are a number of pretty decent little content companies. We work with one sort of writer in particular, and she gets everything done for us. But there are a lot of content companies. I could share some notes maybe if there's an option to share some notes. I'll put a couple of links in there. But for like $100, you can get a really great service page written. And so for any small business, if they were going the do-it-yourself route, take this list of service pages and then like once a month, invest in getting a really great page written for you, and then put that up on your website, assuming you have an editable WordPress website or some kind of CMS that you can just put the page up. Then that is a huge win for you. Over the course of 12 months, over the course of a year, you will have really good content on your website. And I would actually always start with the homepage. Look at what you have on your homepage. Make sure that your homepage talks about all the different services you do, the location you do it in, the neighborhoods you serve. You want to make sure that that page is really built out, because it's usually the homepage that ranks for most terms. So that should touch on each topic, and then each service or topic that you cover should have its own really detailed page, and then the homepage links to that.
Right. And I got the impression you talked about, once, twice a month getting a piece written. I assume that's referring to blogging for a local business.
It's definitely not blogging.
Not blogging. I was wrong. No. Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely, you get to blogging after you have done all of the key sort of resources and service pages of your site. Most small businesses, they don't have those pages built out. And so build out those pages first, because you're going to get way more value out of that. And then you can go to blogging. But the caution with blogging is a lot of small businesses will just hire some blogging service that pumps out one post a week, and it's like a 500-word post of just some drivel. And the problem with that is that Google sees about 1 million of those pages going up on the internet every single day, and there's nothing in them to differentiate you, right? So my strategy and my recommendation is rather than like one post a week, one post a quarter, or one post every 2 months that just is just killer. Just some piece of content that is really detailed, goes, like 2,000, 4,000 words on a particular topic where you've really dove in, done the research. Take all of the money you're spending on those little posts and group that into something that's just a mega, really well-researched, well-written article, and that will be much more value to your blog than these little tiny posts. So you see it all over the place. You go to any small business website, you can see it. Like once a week, they've got some crappy posts, 0 social shares, 0 comments, no activity, because no one cares. So if people don't care, Google's not going to care either. But if you build something amazing, and then you take that post and you get it in front of various communities, you can find those communities on Twitter, you can find them in Google+, you can find them on LinkedIn. If you get that really good content in front of the right people, you will get comments, you will get shares, and then that's the kind of stuff that grabs Google's attention and will actually provide value to your business. Right,
and that really seems to be the key, because like you said, a lot of small businesses, they blog for the sake of blogging, thinking that just having that content is going to make a difference. But I really like the point that you made there, that it has to be actually valuable, because that's what Google ultimately wants to promote. They want to provide sites to their users that are actually going to provide value, answer their questions, and help their users out.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you think about like 5 tips for keeping cool in a hot summer. This is on like some HVAC website. Like that post has been written 1 million times. Like Google doesn't care. If you're going to do like regular blogging, one thing I think can be helpful is that if you just talk about specific jobs you did. So if you were an electrician or HVAC or a dentist or whatever it is, like specific trouble cases, like that's interesting blogging, that you're putting stuff out there. Use your blog for news and events. So if you have any news to promote, that's good. But every once in a while, just hit a killer post. And sometimes think about it this way. What can happen with the blog is that stuff gets buried, right? So if you are continually blogging, a really good post you may have written might get pushed further and further and further into your website. And if you don't have the domain equity to sort of get Google to crawl that deep into your website, then it can eventually just kind of fall off the back and never have any value. So you might want to consider, if you're going to write a super killer post, put it into a resource section right off of your main navigation. So you've got, your main navigation, you got a section called resources, and then there you just drop like your best content, stuff that's really great. And so, for example, you can see that on the Whitespark website, we have a resources section with some of our best stuff. All that stuff could have been a blog post, but we wanted to give it more attention because it's really good. And so the blog can be news and updates and stuff. And in our blog, we try to do really good posts. But for a small business, think about resources more than blog posts.
Right. Now, kind of on this topic of, people try to blog for the sake of blogging and they're doing things incorrectly and there's better ways to do it. What are some, common ideas or tactics, maybe even, misconceptions about local SEO that people might have, or something that people are trying to use, but in your mind, they're executing it and understanding it completely wrong?
Sure, I have a great example. It's a recent example that just came up. So Joy Hawkins wrote a really great post about, common SEO myths. And one of them is posting to Google+. So a lot of businesses, I think this comes from when Google+ was intimately tied with local. That doesn't exist anymore. They've separated the two. So all your local's kind of in maps. It's not really on Google+ anymore. And so a lot of businesses are on this treadmill of just pushing posts to Google+, sort of no value posts, and trying to get some links out of it. And I think that there's very low value in that. Now, that's not to say that there isn't some value in Google+, but the value lies in the communities and building relationships and connecting with other people in your industry and people that would be interested in what you're doing. And sometimes it's just a matter of, if it was an electrician, joining up with other electricians that are active on that community and just talking with them. And lots of interesting online marketing opportunities come out of that. You could share posts. You can, maybe you could do a post on their site. They could do a post on your site. Like that's where the value of Google+ is. But just pumping out Google+ posts for the sake of it, there's no value in that.
Right. That's a really good point.
Just one possible.
Are there any others?
Give me the question again.
Are there any common SEO misconceptions or tactics and strategies you think are generally very poorly executed or misunderstood?
Here's another really good one. In your Google My Business page, you have a section for your description, right? A lot of people think that provides a lot of SEO value, so they'll stuff it with keywords, try to mention all their services. They'll do like anchor text linking, all this kind of stuff in the Google My Business description. So that's a misconception. The description doesn't get used in the ranking algorithm at all, but it does get used as a filter. So if you stuff it full of keywords and really try to spam it up, that could hurt you, but in no way can it ever help you. Google doesn't consider it for rankings.
Right.
There's only a couple things on the Google listing that can help your ranking. Your category is really more, especially the primary category. I've seen massive shifts. So like we had a business that was not categorized. Like the primary category wasn't really reflective of the main thing they wanted to rank for. Changed the primary category, they went up like 10 spots. So that can actually have a huge impact. And the other one, which is unfortunate, is the business name. So if you have, let's say Fresno Electricians in your business name, then that can really help you to rank for that specific term. But as a result of that, people spam it, and that's also a way you can get penalized. So generally, you want to just use your straight business name. But for the handful of people that are listening, there is a little trick to that. In every state across the U.S., you can register what's called an assumed name or a name alias. So it's like, okay, well, my business might be Whitespark Incorporated Ltd. Like you can have this like long name, but you can register an assumed name of just Whitespark. You can kind of fudge that a little bit. So if your business name is just like Bob's Electric, then you can make an assumed name, Bob's Electric Fresno. And if you actually registered it, then it's legit, and you can't actually get penalized for that because it's a real business name. So that can help you, but it's a lot of paperwork to go through to get the benefit of that. If you're just starting out, best thing you can do is get your city and primary keyword in your business name.
Right.
So there's huge benefit to that because it really will help you rank, and it trickles down through all elements of SEO. You've got that in your business name. So every citation, every time your business is mentioned, it's hitting those keywords. You'll typically have it in your domain name. It's just like you just get this massive benefit from that. So if you're just starting out, there's huge benefit to that.
Right. And while we're kind of on the topic of the local search and Google My Business pages, what value or mistakes do you see in things like Google My Business page reviews or even in schema data reviews that, some people are still using? I feel like there's still some value to that, as long as you're not spamming the schema reviews. What's your opinion on those signals?
So I love the schema reviews. We have a post coming out next week about, how to do it and what the benefits are of it. It's just like, that's a huge opportunity right now that most businesses aren't capitalizing on. And you can do it with one tiny snippet of code that you can take from the post that we're going to publish next week. If anyone Google's right now, local SEO service, you'll see our local Spark service is the only one with the stars. It's like, as you're scanning results, if you see those stars, there's huge benefit to that, right? So you're going to click on that and learn a little bit more about that business. So it's a really great click-through rate driver. In Google My Business reviews, I think one mistake people make is not responding to negative reviews. So if you get a negative review, taking the time to not defensively, but like proactively addressing that and being apologize for the situation, just show that you're a business, you care about this and that you want to rectify it. That can be huge. Sometimes a negative review can actually help you because you get this negative review, but as a business owner, you show that you're like, oh my God, I'm really sorry you had that experience. I want to sort it out for you. Contact me. There's big benefit to that. It shows that you care. And so if you leave them all unresponded to, then that just looks terrible. So that's a big mistake that people make with their Google reviews. And another mistake people make with reviews is focusing only on Google. So if they only push people to Google, then just like the diversity of reviews, so hitting reviews on a number of different review sites, especially in the industry. If you just type in your primary keyword in city, you'll see which sites come up as really important review sites. Those are the ones. Make sure you focus on those, get reviews on. So if Yellow Pages is coming up, do that. If you're a dentist and Health Grades is coming up, then focus on reviews on that as well. So you don't want to just push people to Google. Speaking of reviews, don't ever randomly push people to Yelp. There's no value in that, because what'll happen is if you say, oh, please leave us a review on Yelp, that person will go make an account, leave your review, never log into your Yelp account again, and then that review will instantly get filtered. So Yelp will only keep reviews up from people that are generally active on the site. So you've got to have a profile photo, you've got to have a number of reviews, some comments, like just a person that's using the site, their review will stick. But if the person's inactive, the review won't stick. So as a result, there's no value in just asking random customers to review you on Yelp. What you can do is you can load up your mailing list into the Find People on Yelp. There's like a Find Friends on Yelp. So you load up your mailing list and they're there, and it'll show you all the people that are active on Yelp. Those are people you can ask. And you can even do it one-off. So like, let's say, you only work with 12 customers a month or something. Every time you're about to send the review ask, just put their email into the Yelp Find Friends and see if they have an account, see if they're active. If you find someone, then you've hit the jackpot, and that's a person you really want to say, oh, hey, we noticed you're busy, you're active on Yelp. We'd really appreciate it if you left some feedback for us. That's a great way to get Yelp reviews, but don't ask, because otherwise it also looks bad if you've got 3 Yelp reviews and 14 filtered Yelp reviews. Yeah. You don't want that. That
throws up red flags pretty fast.
Yep. Looks like you're spamming Yelp.
Exactly, which is not something we want for local SEO purposes.
No.
So, trying to think of the right way to word this. Once a person, assuming a person has their website structured good way, like you said, you have adequate content that's actually providing value. Once you have Google My Business set up, with some reviews ideally, what do you feel like is next? Like, do you go for competitor replication for their citations and links, things like that? What's the next step after you've covered the bare minimum?
Links. It's always links. And then links, there's no end to it, right? So that's a lot of our campaigns over the first 6 months. We're fixing up their website, getting all their tracking in place, getting their citations cleaned up, getting a good review strategy rolling. We also start working on links immediately, but that's the thing that is always coming. So at the end of, once everything's done, it's just 2 pieces. Really great content, like that resource-based content I talked about, and links. And so I suppose it's worthwhile to talk about, how do you get links? You're a small business. Some of the quick wins we always start with are sponsorships. So a locally relevant link, it doesn't have to be huge domain authority, but if it's local to your city, let's say it's a particular nonprofit that operates in your city, like some kind of humane society for pets, or it's a homeless shelter or a women's shelter. Find a cause that resonates with you and donate to it. You're looking for opportunities that this is a cause that means something to me. So you're not just doing it for SEO, but you do get that locally relevant, generally high authority within the city link from it. Often, so make sure that you can get a link from it. But sponsorships are huge. We often start with that. Local business associations, you have to pay to get into them. So that's a link that will set you apart from the competition. So if you, it's, the West Side Chamber of Commerce, or, the downtown business association, those kinds of opportunities are really good. Find the one that's local to you, and you should get involved in that. Industry specific associations are also really good. They're a trust signal for Google. So let's say you are listed on, these three associations of electricians. That shows Google that you are a legit electrician, right? So if you think about the spam that Google has to deal with, they're always looking for these trust signals. So if you're a locksmith that has created a fake listing and it's just the whole fake business, it's lead generation, you're not really actually doing the work, then you wouldn't normally go to the trouble of getting Better Business Bureau accredited. You're not getting listed on all these websites. All of that, those things are good trust signals. So those are other links that we go after. So you generally have to pay a little bit of money for those. And so if your budget is small, you kind of balance it. Okay, well, this month we're going to focus on this one piece of content. Next month, we're going to get that one sponsorship link. In some industries, scholarships can be huge. So if you create a good scholarship program, you can then pitch that to local universities, local colleges, local high schools in some cases. And then that's the kind of thing that you could even take national. If you're going to get into that, it's a lot of work to find the places and then continually outreach to them. So this is where you kind of hire an SEO company to work on all that stuff for you. But those are really great local links. And another huge one is business sort of relationships. So most businesses work with other businesses in some capacity. So there's always an opportunity. Like a mortgage broker works with real estate agents. So the real estate agents could potentially link to the mortgage broker. This is the mortgage broker we recommend, right? And so a lot of those opportunities are just sitting there that no one's capitalized on. So we have an intake process where we go through all of the, we actually ask them to look through their phone. So flip through your contact list on your phone and you're looking for anyone that you have any kind of relationship. Does that person have a website, and could they link to you? So you're just kind of flipping through that. I sat with a client once, a mortgage broker, and we found 10 opportunities just by doing that. So there's a lot of these link opportunities, and those are great local and relevant links for the most part.
Sure.
Another one is if you have businesses that do work for you, then that's a great opportunity. So an obvious one is, let's say the local business that built your website. They'll often link to you in their portfolio section. So if they haven't done that, then you could sort of pitch to them. Let's say a catering service that often caters your events, or anyone that does work for you, you could give them a testimonial and get a link out of that. So most small businesses aren't doing that. So you don't actually need that many. If you go down that road, you're probably going to do pretty good with just 5 of these kinds of links. Once you get 5, you're kind of off to the races. But that's the continual ongoing work that we do for our local sport clients.
Sure. And what you mentioned about, excuse me, what you mentioned about local partnerships with, like you said, the real estate agent and the mortgage. There's a lot of, I know when I first got started, I was kind of scared to do that because I had seen a lot of, obviously directories do a lot of reciprocal links and things like that that get categorized as link schemes by Google, which they are. Yeah. So do you feel like that's something that isn't a problem so long as it's not at scale?
Absolutely. And so I wouldn't even call that reciprocal linking. So reciprocal linking in that traditional sense are like just random anybody. Like you have a page on your site that just lists links, and at the bottom it says, in order to get listed on this page, add a link to our site, on your website, and then email us, and then we'll link back to you. So that's just sort of that's the idea of like penalized reciprocal linking. This is natural linking. It's like these are actual relationships I have with people, and And so there's no of getting penalized for that. And you don't always have to link back. So like, let's say you just give a testimonial. Well, you don't have to link back to them. The hard work in that is, so let's say you've identified these businesses that you work with, they have websites. You look at their website and it's just like, they don't really have a place on their website to leave you a link. So the hard work is just sort of looking at their website and only really reaching out and chasing down the ones that actually make sense. Some of them, you know, they're never going to link to you. It doesn't make sense. So you kind of have to go through them and evaluate them. The only way to really, the ones that have like really no opportunity to link to you, if they don't have like a, you know, our partners page or people we work with page, then the testimonial is the best angle for that. Be like, okay, I'm going to write you, we really appreciate the work you did for us. Here's a testimonial. You might want to put it on your homepage. It can help you. It's kind of like you're giving them something in order to link to you. Sure,
providing value, and if they feel like it, they'll give value in return.
Yeah.
Molly asked in the chat. She said, "Is there a way to get your business info to show up on the right-hand side with the pictures, the directions, and info, so that the local search box?"
So that's called the knowledge graph, and absolutely, most small businesses should get that on a branded search. So if you're not getting it, then that means your Google My Business listing might have issues, or you just have no signals at all. Like you don't have enough citations out there, you don't have any links to your website. So if you're brand new, you can't really expect that out of the gates. What you have to do is build up enough citations and mentions of your business on all of the important sites. And make sure your Google My Business listing is sound. And generally those things, once Google sees enough signals, then that becomes an entity. And so Google's like, okay, there's this business entity called whatever. And once you sort of get entity status, you're in the knowledge graph, you should get the knowledge panel that pops up next to when you do a branded search.
Right. And thank you for saying knowledge graph, because on Wednesday's webinar, I was trying to explain that, and I could not come up with the term knowledge graph. Thank you for reminding me what that was. It was killing me.
Yeah, the knowledge graph is like the big sort of database of all the entities, and then that little thing that pops up is called a knowledge panel.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned about the local relationships and you know, donating to nonprofits locally and things like that, it seems like the big difference there is the quality of the link. You know, people say you don't want to go for quantity of links, like, you know, back in the day. It's quality where you're actually building relationships. So do you have any specific tips for how people can find those things, you know, a little more in depth, how they can find relationships that are really going to be worth their while, where you can both provide value to each other?
So flipping through your contact list is very helpful to find those business relationships. To find sponsorships, there's a number of queries you can run. So we have a few posts on our website that I can link to. It's just, we'll show you the queries. But basically, if you just type in city, like whatever your city name is, so let's say Fresno, right? So if you just Google Fresno, and then you put in URL. This is a Google search. It's not really parameter. Search operator.
Yeah.
Search operator. So Fresno in URL sponsors. That's going to surface a ton. So I ran that search. What do I see? There we go. Boom. So it's a whole page full of potential opportunities. And so the work is to go through them and look for these opportunities that aren't like $10,000. Like our platinum sponsor has sponsored us $100,000 for our like Build the Hospital Foundation, right? So that kind of stuff is going to be out of your league, but you will find little small ones like a theater group or a 5K run, or you know, that kind of stuff. You'll find a lot of that. So that one search will probably surface enough for you. So city, in URL, sponsors will return a lot of opportunities.
Sure. It seems like that's the Google search operators. I don't think nearly enough people use that, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone's using Scrapebox and trying to find it, and that just doesn't end well.
That's not a good approach. Let me see here. So, here we go. I'm going to paste this here link over to everybody. This is awesome. Post written by the great Jesse Lowe. So that post is just full of how to find local link building opportunities. It's just tons of stuff in there.
Sure. Awesome.
Yep.
So what would you say, this is kind of we've talked a little bit about specific things now. Let's go on a kind of at a higher level. What would you say is the most important thing you've learned in all of your SEO work? You know, if there's one takeaway on how to actually see results, because you know, I talk about quite a bit. SEO is kind of a long game. You know, it takes time. It often takes mistakes too. What's your big takeaway for people who are wanting to get started or wanting to improve? And there can be more than one.
Yeah, I've touched on them. It really does. You can tweak your title tags and add schema markup and, you know, add keywords to your image alt attributes and just fiddle around with your website endlessly, and that is not going to move the needle. The biggest things are content and links. So continuing to add that content and links. And I think if you're just getting started, don't wreck your chances in the future by trying to do anything that's quick and cheap. Don't hire like some really cheap SEO company from some, you know, other country that is, you know, just really questionable practice. And anyone that emails you and says, hey, I would, you know, we can get you first page rankings guaranteed, any of that stuff, that's all garbage. Make sure you don't fall into any of those sort of SEO traps. Just do things right from the outset. Don't worry too much about tinkering with your website. This is at the small business level. At the enterprise or e-commerce level, there's a lot of technical SEO knowledge, like site architecture, duplicate pages, canonicals. All that stuff is very important. But at the small business level, it's usually pretty basic. You've got a general WordPress website, main navigation with about us, services, areas we serve is another page that's another section that's valuable. And contact, like there's usually, you know, our team might be a page. So you've generally got this really simple page plus a blog or a resources section. So there's not a lot of website stuff that you can tinker with. Just keep focusing on those link opportunities, those citation opportunities, and reviews. Reviews are huge too.
Sure. In the long term, you know, we talk a little bit about, you know, the reviews, optimizing your website, getting valuable content set up. That's kind of things that there's going to be a chunk of time where you're doing a lot of that kind of stuff, the on-page SEO, establishing your first several links, establishing your first several citations. What's the long game? You know, people talk a lot about the flurry of activity that happens when you decide to start, but how do you see continued success?
Yeah, so maintaining a position or continuing to sort of inch higher and higher up the rankings is really driven by sort of community engagement. Being a good business is a big part of it too, right? If you're a business that sucks and you don't care about your customers, Google can see that. They see that in the reviews, and that can hurt you. So just being a good business is a big part of it. The long game is really just continuing to work on community building. So you know, Google Plus, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, like building community, writing really good content, sort of becoming a subject matter expert. But that is so hard for a busy business owner to do. It's just really tough to make that recommendation, because they're like, I spend 10 hours a day doing my business. I don't have an extra 4 hours to be writing content and building relationships on all of these online communities. And so it just gets really tough. And I think that's where it probably makes sense to hire a local search company that can do that stuff for you.
Right. Or at a minimum, you know, I think, like you said, they're running a business already. They don't, you know, SEO is not their business, and it should not be their business. That's where I see a lot of, I'm seeing kind of a trend around here, particularly in the Clarksville, Nashville, Tennessee area, is people hiring people in-house, even if they're not super experienced with SEO. Maybe they don't want to go out and hire a company because it's out of budget, whatever that reason may be. Hiring someone in-house who's maybe already doing their social media or something like that, you know, paying for a couple courses for them. And then, like you said, at a local level, it's pretty basic. So on a local level, you can do the in-house person. And as long as you're consistent with that seems like it'll work too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that at the local level in non-competitive, if you are a personal injury lawyer in New York, then you're not going to do well with just the basics. But for a lot of small businesses in not massive metropolises, they can generally get away with some really basic stuff. And you know, sometimes it's once and done. You don't need to keep working on the long game. You know, you've established a great online presence through your citation building. You've got a good review strategy in place. You continue. The review strategy is really this one thing: ask customers for a review. So that if you make sure you're always asking every customer for a review, then that's your review strategy. It's in place. Your website is sound. You know, every once in a while, if you see an opportunity, you get a link. That's really the long game for a lot of small businesses, and there's not that much more to it. So if you've established a good foundation and you keep working at it, that growth will come.
Sure. So that's pretty much all of the basic questions I had. So I want to go ahead and open it up for Q&A for the handful of people that are watching. I see Molly asked another question. She said, are people on Fiverr knowledgeable? I've never tried services on there. What's your opinion, particularly for like, you know, someone who's starting out, you know, what's your opinion on Fiverr services?
You know what? So my initial reaction is be really careful about Fiverr because there's a lot of garbage on there. You don't want to go with anything like, we will write fake reviews for you, or we will build you 100 links for $5, or, you know, any of that stuff is generally garbage. But you can actually get some decent content writing out of Fiverr. So if you can find people that can write some content, or little designers, so like little design projects. So if you want to make your page look a little bit better, you're thinking about like, okay, I've got this website, I'm actually driving leads to it, but no one's filling out my contact form or calling me. Then you could think a little bit about design. So, you know, you can find some stuff on Fiverr. You just have to be careful about it. We don't use it at all in our service. You know, we just generally find, you know, higher quality providers for various things that we need. But yeah, I think if you're careful with Fiverr, you might be able to find some good people on there. Just make sure you vet them. Yeah, definitely. What you mentioned about copywriters, blog posts, I've had some people write some blog posts, but it was, you know, it was subpar. So yeah. There's also a lot of actually really good voiceover people and a lot of good animators on Fiverr. So if you're looking to start a YouTube channel, looking to start a YouTube channel, you can get like a 1-2 minute animation with a voiceover about your business and how you do business. And I've seen that work pretty well too. So we're going to go ahead and do, you know, questions and answers. You can type questions for Darren into the chat, or I've unlocked the guest seat. So if you feel like being brave and jumping onto a live stream right now, you can call in for a question, or if we don't have any questions, I can ask more of my own. Or Darren, you can talk about, you know, what's most interesting for you right now in SEO. What's something you want to talk about? Sure. Let's answer this question. What about using Pinterest? Sure. For the right business, sure, I think it makes sense. But we don't have any clients that we focus on Pinterest for. I think if you were in some kind of creative space and you could share a lot of photos of your work, then Pinterest can actually be really good. It's more community building. Don't think of it as SEO. Think of it as community building. You are, you know, building a network of people that are interested in your stuff, and we'll share it around. But Pinterest isn't huge for us for SEO. We don't focus too much on it. Okay. One thing that I think is really interesting, and this just came up yesterday. So we worked with a moving company. It was actually the company that moved us when we moved to our new house 2 years ago. So we got to talking about SEO, and so we helped them out with like a sort of one-time project, and we did some work for them, and we helped them get their website optimized and build out citations and stuff. And he if you type in Edmonton movers, I live in Edmonton, you type in Edmonton or best movers in Edmonton or best Edmonton movers, he doesn't rank for that key phrase at all, but that drives more online business for him than anything. And the way it works is the very first organic result is the Yelp page that says 10 best movers in Edmonton. And when you go to that page, his listing is #1. And the reason his listing is #1, even though he doesn't have more Yelp reviews than anyone else, is because he has one review that actually mentions those keywords, best movers in Edmonton. And that review was written by me. So I recognize the value that would provide to him. And it's a legit review. I do think that best movers in Edmonton, and I'm an active Yelper. And so I thought, well, I'm going to write this review for him. And so that one thing was enough to drive a ton of extra business for him. And so the strategy there is, you know, I talked about, you know, checking to make sure a person is active Yelper before you ask for a Yelp review. But there is one small segment of active Yelpers that are just the perfect gold mine. And that's, if you're a business, you generally do work for your friends or your family. Let's say you're a dentist. Well, I bet you all of your friends and family come in to see you for their dental work. Or you're some kind of general contractor. You probably help build someone's steps or refinish their deck or all that kind of stuff, right? So those are the people that you personally know, where if you find out that they're active on Yelp by putting their email address into the Yelp thing, those are people you could finesse the review content a little bit. You'd be like, hey, brother-in-law, I notice you're active on Yelp. Could you leave me a review? And if you added the words, best dentist in city, that would really help me a lot. And it's ridiculous how much that does help. So it's just this one little tip thing that can drive a lot of online business for you if you can kind of finesse that Yelp review. But you can only do it for people that are active Yelpers and people that you personally know. You're not going to ask all of your customers to use the words best dentist in Edmonton when they leave you a Yelp review. It's a little too sketchy. But that one small segment, if you can make it happen, there's huge value to that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's something that does not get talked about a whole lot.
Yeah.
I guess we have a question here from, is it Rochelle? Is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, it sure is. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
I've been a long-time Whitespark customer, so yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well, the thing about it is that Mobilegeddon 2 is about to come on the scene, and I've heard, we always take what Google says with a grain of salt, but yet we have to listen at the same time. So, how do you see? I've heard it basically compared like this: if a website is mobile friendly versus a desktop version, okay, they're going to basically rank the mobile website a lot higher than the desktop view, okay? Mm-hmm. However, if the content is better quality, the content will rule every time. And I've heard that that's going to be the case with the new Mobilegeddon rollout. What do you think? How that's going to impact local search? Let's keep it on the local search level.
Sure. If you had asked me the question, what do you think the impact of Mobilegeddon is and what should small businesses do, I think you answered your own question. So basically, I completely agree that the mobile website is really valuable. It's actually really valuable on mobile. So if you're a small business, a lot of people are searching on their phones, right? Mm-hmm. So having the mobile-friendly website responsive is the way to go for sure. Mm-hmm. But having that can have a huge benefit. In the long, this is kind of a long game thing. Right. You're not going to die in the rankings if you don't have a mobile website, mm-hmm. but it's a smart thing to invest in. You can find a lot of companies that will convert your existing website, or it might just your website might be dated. It might be just time to convert to a new WordPress-based site with a responsive theme and hire a good company to customize that for you. So I think that it's valuable. I think you're right that content can trump the mobile thing, and mm-hmm. probably will. It's not a huge signal. It's just like, if you're looking at the whole algorithm, it's like 2% of the equation.
Okay, so you're looking at it being low, like 2%. You're not looking at it being much higher than that. Is that correct? Yeah,
but the first Mobilegeddon that came out was not a Mobilegeddon at all. So
I think it was more of our hand slap from Google parents.
They're just like, they want us to do it. So
right.
Really, whenever they want people to do something, they say this will affect your SEO.
Right, and now we're about to get sent to our room, and then probably Mobilegeddon 3, we're going to spanking or something. So anyway,
exactly. So I think they're going to slowly amp that up. And one thing I know for sure is that Google doesn't design for the desktop, and they haven't for like over a year or 2 years. Uh-huh. It's been mobile first all the way, and that's what you see happening all the time. Like the new local pack style is 100% built around mobile. They just have one code base that they use. They don't want to maintain two, so everything is driven to mobile. The desktop stuff is just kind of they don't look at that. As long as it works on mobile, then they assume it's going to work on desktop. And so everything is moving towards that. They want to make sure that a fast and efficient mobile experience is there for their users. That's what they're trying to do, right? So people are using Google search, but if it's super slow and it's a bad experience, then they don't like it. And then there's a side effect to that. Sort of pogo sticking, bounce rate, click-through rate, all that stuff can have a negative impact. So if people hit your website and then it takes forever to load on mobile, or it's a bad experience, they'll bounce back. So there's this sort of secondary negative effect that can happen if you don't have a mobile-friendly website. So it's just, and here's another, actually, if you're a small business, forget about SEO. Do it because most of your customers are going to come through mobile. And if they can't use your website well, then they're not going to convert. They're not going to call you, not going to read all your content. That's the most important reason to do it. SEO, you might get some side benefit from it, but it's worth doing just because it'll help your customers, take in your information and recognize that you're a good company that they want to call. If they have to zoom and pinch to actually read all your content, then that's not going to work out very well for them.
Exactly. You're preaching to the choir over here. So yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, thanks for having me in. It was great to have you, Darren, and stick around on Blab. We've got some really good stuff going on over here.
This is my first Blab experience.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. And it's really good to engage because there's a lot of conversations going on over here. So yeah, definitely. Good to have you.
All right.
Thanks for calling in. Something I would add to Darren's answer to that question is if you are wanting to get mobile optimized, I'm particularly big on what he said about it's not going to matter if you're ranking well. If people go to your website and realize it sucks on mobile and you're not going to convert, so it becomes automatically worthless almost. If you're on WordPress, the Jetpack plugin from Automatic does have a mobile theme option for it. So if you need a quick fix, that's not going to be perfect. But if you want a quick fix and you want to kind of patch that up, especially while you're working on a new edition of your website or something like that, that's an option.
Yeah, it's a great tip. It's not going to make this, it's not going to look beautiful like your website does, but at least it allows your content to be easily read and absorbed on mobile.
Exactly. Next question, what about using Facebook Promote instead of Facebook ads for local?
It's out of my wheelhouse. I like Facebook ads. We use it to promote good content and stuff. I think there's great value there. But Facebook Promote versus Facebook ads, that's not something I'm qualified to answer. That's not really what I do a lot of.
Yeah, I think I've experimented with that a little bit. It's not really in my wheelhouse either, but I've seen some advantages of that. I think it matters more the quality of the content that you're promoting and that you're pushing out there more than it does the actual method of what you're using.
Right.
Any other questions? That call-in seat is still open, so if you'd like to jump on the call, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we can jump back to Darren talking about what he does best.
Sure. Let's see. What would be another tip I could just provide? Just
real quick. I have a client call at 11:45, so I may have to pop out of here, but the Blab will keep going if I leave, I think. So you can keep talking to them if there's questions that aren't answered yet. But if so, I'll excuse myself, leave, and you can keep educating people.
I got to get going in about 7 minutes myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So the education portion will end.
All right. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Yeah, no, let me just see. What would be a good tip? Kind of given out a lot of.
What are your thoughts on PR nowadays? Because PR releases used to be quite big for SEO, at least in this general region. So what are your thoughts on PR releases now?
So a few years ago, press releases were used as a link building tactic in themselves. So it'd be like, okay, well, if I distribute this press release, it'll end up on 45 different websites all linking back to me, and they try to optimize the anchor text. I've seen that be very negative, so actually negatively impact the person's ranking through the Penguin algorithm. So press releases can be awesome if you have something newsworthy that you want to get in front of the press. So we've done it a handful of times and had success. So really the goal is to get your news item picked up by an actual news agency. Don't do it for SEO, like the press release itself for SEO. There's no value in that, so very, very minimal value. What you want to do is just write a really good press release that is of interest to an actual reporter that might pick it up. And I also don't recommend just some blanket press release platform. Most cities will have like an individual where we're just going to distribute that within the city to the news agencies, and it's a bit more professional because let's say, imagine you're a reporter, right? Are you going to read the fire hose of press releases that are coming in, or are you going to listen to the handful of people within your community that actually are promoting stuff? So there usually are services within each city where they distribute press releases, and I think you get a lot more attention through those. And so there's great value in that. Media mentions can be absolutely insane. So you can be nowhere to be found. You get one good media mention and boom, you're in the local pack. So sometimes that can have a really good impact. So think about that from a, what am I doing in my business that's newsworthy? Am I doing anything? And I would also say, like, a lot of time, a press release isn't the best approach. If you have the time to do a little bit of research to find the bloggers and reporters on Twitter, usually Twitter is a great way to reach them. Just find the people that would be interested in that particular topic and ping them on Twitter. It's way more effective than a press release if you have something that would actually be of interest. So
right. So make sure it's actually relevant first.
Yeah. Right. So let's say a great example are dentists. I've seen this a number of times work quite well with the media, where they do a Halloween candy buyback. So every Halloween, the dentist will set up this thing where kids can bring in their big bags of candy and they'll buy it back from them for like $10 a pound. So the thing is that the kids are not ingesting all of the sugar and wrecking their teeth. And then they get this money that they could then go use for something. And when you implement a program like that, and you push it out to local news, it's just a real good feel-good story that you can get some really good media mentions out of. So think about that kind of thing. What can you do that would generate media attention that would actually go up on a news site, or maybe even get like a video thing done where like the local TV station even features you. So that's the kind of media stuff that you want to focus on, not just like, we are introducing a new service. Like, they're not going to publish about that. They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming up on the hour. I know you said you got to run. I got to run too. Any closing thoughts, places where people can connect with you, closing tips, anything you want to push? Sure.
Well, I love any questions. So if you have follow-up questions, you can ping me on Twitter at Darren Shaw _. I'm on Google Plus as +Darren Shaw. I encourage you to check out our resources section on our website, whitespark.ca, and our blog is full of great information as well.
Awesome.
And you should join our newsletter. We have this thing called the Local Pulse. And so what the Local Pulse does, so we have two newsletters that are actually quite valuable. So the Local Insider is a monthly curated newsletter on local search topics and great articles. And there's usually like one sort of feature thing that we're trying to give people advice on. And then the Local Pulse is a daily email where we aggregate all of the best local search blogs. So all of their RSS feeds are aggregated into one thing. And then we send you an email and be like, here's a digest of the local search blogs that came out that way. So it's like, the concept is never miss a local search post. So you'll pick up a lot of great stuff with either of those two newsletters, which you can find on our website. Great.
That is awesome. Yeah, I can vouch for the fact that both of those are great. I'm subscribed to both. So,
sure. And I also highly recommend Jonathan's 3-part series on local SEO. It was awesome. It's really well written. It really sort of covers all of the really important things. If you read those 3 articles, you've got the real corpus of local search information. I think they're really good. So, Jonathan, you should put a link to those. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, I will. I don't know if I have a link to them right now. Let me do that real quick in case anyone wants to read them. Again, check out Whitespark. I use it in my own business. I'm sure Darren will appreciate this. I am an ex-Bright Local user. I converted to Whitespark for a very good reason, and you'll see why there's another post reviewing Whitespark. So look at the first post if you want to check that out. Please go check out Darren. Follow him on Twitter and Google Plus and all those other good happy places. Thanks so much for joining us, Darren. Really appreciate you coming here and sharing your knowledge of local SEO.
Thanks a lot for organizing this. It was fun to try out Blab, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you. Everyone have a good day.
All right, thanks. Bye, everyone.